It's been one of those days.
Listen, we're talking about rocks and hard places today. And
The intro.
okay, we are talking about rocks and hard places, and we've had rocks and hard places getting up to this point
That's
because
it.
technology has not wanted to work with us.
Yeah, it's not. It's
Um,
just been one of those. It's been one of those days.
but we prevailed.
That's it.
We're
That's it.
here.
And here we are, Meredith. This is what you get. This might be your intro.
Yeah. I'm gonna like hype you up as much as I can because you really are so dear to me. It's so funny
Yeah.
because we've actually never met in person. Meredith
So
and I, right?
yeah, yeah.
Wow.
I feel
So
like you were one of my closest people. And when I realized that we've never actually met in person, that blows my mind.
I know.
Wow.
Like
Yeah.
I need to drive to Georgia and hug your neck.
Yeah.
So Meredith and I met through Proverbs 31. She is a writer for Encouragement for Today, Proverbs 31's daily devotional that they send out. She's on the team. And Proverbs 31 hosted a book proposal boot camp back
Oh, wow.
in 2020, I believe, right?
I think we started in January 2021, but we did apply in 2020. Yes.
Okay, so Meredith and I got in. Meredith makes sense getting in. Me, I don't know how I got in, but
Yeah, Proverbs 31 is, I mean, that ministry is a big ministry. Yeah.
so we both got into this boot camp, and it was a group of writers who worked with an author, editor. We got assigned different people, and we were in this, I guess, kind of master class on how to write,
Mhm.
how to write a book proposal,
Yeah.
and they partnered us up.
Mm.
So Meredith and I got partnered as, what did they call us? Like,
I don't know, boot camp buddies or something. I don't know.
yeah. Well, we were boot camp buddies, and I was like, I love this girl. Like, I
Yeah.
really did. I was like, I like Meredith. I secretly wanted to be paired with you
You're
like
so-
the whole time.
Wow.
And so we did. And so we've just kept up ever since. And so I think my favorite part about Meredith is that she's real
Mm-hmm.
and you're so talented and gifted. I know we joke, but you really are. And I love how diverse your interests are because yes, you write devotions, but you also like screenwriting, film. You love that. And I think that's really cool.
Wow. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, I'm definitely a Renaissance woman, like just all the things. That's kind of been that way my whole life. Like I have trouble focusing on one thing because I love so many things. So,
I think a
just
lot of women, I think all of us, all women love a lot of things. We
Yeah.
go through seasons, and it
yeah,
just depends because we could be single women and we've got all these goals and aspirations, and then we become wives and mothers. So yeah, every season's different, but yeah.
yeah.
So Meredith actually like is now writing a book. You're turning it in.
Yes, I'm turning it in tomorrow. Praise the
Woo!
Lord. Oh my goodness. Write a book, they said. It'll be fun, they said. It's been an intense 10 months. It definitely has. And I cannot wait to hit send on this thing tomorrow.
You're like, I'm done. We love it, but we're done.
I'm done. I'm in the last minute edits. And I mean, honestly, going through it, I'm just like, you know what? I feel like I left everything on the field when I was writing it. And at this point, there's nothing more I can do. Someone else has to take this thing and run with it.
Yeah.
So.
So give us a little bit of details if you can of what it's going to be about.
Yes, so it's this little book has had a winding path of its own, but it's a 90-day devotional. Uh, can't say that I will ever pitch a 90-day devotional again. That's a lot. I think 30
Mhm.
days is a beautiful number.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a 90-day devotional. Working title is Between Rocks and Hard Places, letting Jesus bring hope, clarity, and purpose to life's rocky roads. So that's kind of, and it started out, it wasn't the story I worked on in the boot camp with Mandy, but it did kind of come out of that
Mhm.
as I worked a little more with the gal who was our mentor. So it started out as a trade book. That was the original proposal, a typical 13, 14 chapter book. And I have an agent, she's amazing, and, pitched
Yeah.
it all over. But, we got good feedback, but unfortunately, publishers just said we don't need this right now. We have a lot of titles coming out on hard seasons.
Mhm.
But several of the publishers said, but we need devotionals about this. We don't have anything. And, asked me, would she be willing to
Mhm.
pivot? And, at first, I mean, as writer, we can get a little precious with our words
Yeah.
and our words.
Yeah.
And I honestly felt disappointed at first at that news. And Debbie, my agent, just said, take some time, pray about it, think about it. You don't have to. You can always say, like, no, this is what I feel like it should be. But one morning in my quiet time, as I, was reading and studying, God just came in and was like, Mayor, outside of my word, in your life, devotionals have been what has been part of transforming your faith and encouraging you and keeping you going. And I started thinking through, like, yes, all the different devotional books that have just carried me through a lot of
Mhm.
hard seasons. And that was it. Like, that was all it took for me. I just thought, okay, yes, Lord, I'm in. Let's do this. Let's pivot. And I am a devotional writer. So in that way, it maybe, or I thought it was going to be easier
Yeah.
Yeah.
because, devotionals, but yeah, so that was kind of like the backstory of the book, baby. So,
Wow.
So the title,
yeah.
Between Rocks and Hard Places. So when people hear this phrase, you kind of think like, you're stuck, right?
Hmm.
Like, okay, I have this decision on this side. I have this decision on this side. Like, what do I do? I'm paralyzed. I'm stuck. So we've all heard this phrase, but can you explain like how have you experienced this in your life and maybe share what made you want to write about this topic and really dive into it biblically too?
Yes, no, for sure. That's, when I started thinking about the topic, hard places, hard seasons, you're exactly right. That idea of stuck, that was kind of like the felt need or the felt experience that I kept coming back to, because that to me is just how it feels. You are hemmed in. You have this difficult marriage issue, and maybe your spouse is making choices, you have no control over that. Or
Hmm.
you're facing financial struggles or prodigal child or special needs, and like there is nothing you can do. These are boulders that you cannot just pick up and move. So that idea of stuck, and that's where we always think of, oh, stuck between a rock and a hard place. But as I started thinking about that idea of like rocks and going through scripture, it just kind of started to jump out at me. Like, there are a lot of rock references. And when I started paying attention, I mean, they're everywhere, Old Testament, New Testament. Um, so it kind of got me thinking about that symbolism. I like, studying symbolism and how can that speak to us. So Joel Mutamale, he's the theology director for Proverbs 31. He's so great, just this like walking biblical encyclopedia.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
Um,
awesome.
it's amazing. So I had reached out to him and, told him like, hey, this is what I'm thinking. Is there anything there? Like, what do you think? And he was great. He's like, yeah, let me do some research and let's schedule a call. So we did. We had a call, and, he was really encouraging. He's like, yeah, I think there is something here, like something that you can really dig into further. And so as we did and kind of got into it, what I discovered was there is this spiritual rhythm of rocks, if you will, that mirrors the physical use of rocks throughout
Mm.
scripture. So in ancient times in the Bible, rocks had three main purposes. They were used to tear down, they were like weapons. So tear down armies or tools. They were used to build, that was the main tool they had to make their walls and their temples. And they were also used to memorialize. So people marking, special people, places, events, they would stack stones, build an altar. So that's the physical use, but spiritually in our lives, there's this rhythm that God is using our rocks being the hard things, the hard circumstances, And he's taking those rocks, and in us, he is tearing down uh,
Mm.
all the false theology, false beliefs, our pride, our misplaced trust, all these things that have to go in us if we're going to get down the road with sanctification. But then he's using them once we can clear that out to build up in us a resilient faith, a resilient joy, a heart of worship, compassion and empathy for others that we maybe wouldn't have had before. And all of that, so then we can go on and memorialize his goodness. We become, as First Peter talks about, those living stones. God is our cornerstone, and then he's building us into those living stones. So it was just kind of fascinating to see that at play. And, I didn't have words to that for that beforehand, but I look at my own life and see like, this is exactly what you've been doing. So that was kind of the heart behind it and the story behind it. And it's been fun to just jump into scripture. And, I'm a little bit type A, a little bit of a outliner, control freak, but just kind of surrendering that and letting God take me with it where he would, if you will. So
I think it's a matter of like I love the story of Joshua and always going and putting the stones back and always the remembrance of
yes.
what he's brought us through
Yeah.
um, is there. So I think you're on to something. I know you're on to something because it is truly something that I can think about that I probably haven't seen really been designated on is that the rocks and the hard places are an
Mhm.
easy term to say, but when
Mhm.
you're in it, it is a very difficult place, but we
Hmm.
can go back to the rock and go, if he's brought us through before, he'll bring us through again. Can you
Yeah.
share with maybe your own little maybe personal situation because I think it's great. We've got to have scripture. We know the stories, but bring a general life situation to the people listening that can say, I can relate to this. And this is how maybe somebody can say, maybe, Meredith, God brought you through something and he maybe
Mhm.
is bringing you in something through
Hmm.
something right now that you can go back and reflect on and go, but Lord, you brought me through this once before, you'll do this for me again.
Absolutely. And, just seeing that in my own life and studying in scripture, how much we forget. We just forget. The Israelites forgot. I forget, so,
Right.
so important. I think, in my life, I kind of chuckle. I'm like, well, I have a deep well to draw from, like it's hard season. But for me, I would say it's my mothering with my oldest that is really, that is the hard place that the time where God really got a hold of my heart. And, so much of the book, I draw on a lot of my experience, but I think probably the majority of my, personal anecdotes really do revolve around him and my mothering journey with him. So, again, like we have had hard places in our marriage, hard places trying to get pregnant. We went through 3 years of infertility,
Mm,
finally got pregnant. It was amazing, God's miraculous provision. And then the sweet boy at the age of 3, we knew starting around 18 months that developmentally something wasn't quite right. But, first time mom, especially, we didn't know.
Yeah.
Um, but then at the age of 3, he was diagnosed with autism and really a genetic condition. So that's the genetic condition is ultimately the cause
mhm,
um, of his autism. And that just kind of, broke me
Mm.
because, again, it wasn't like life was this beautiful, easy journey. And then we had this hard thing. It felt like, okay, we've just had one hard thing after another. And then, God, you answer this deep cry of my heart. And now this. And,
Yeah.
for me personally, there was something about the genetics that just, I describe it as I felt as if God reached out and slapped me across the face.
Yeah.
That feeling of just like, because it wasn't like I can't blame this or that, with
Yeah.
the autism, a very hot topic right now, people don't know why or trying to figure out the cause. It's like, no, I know why. And it happened when only God, like God is the one knitting
Mhm.
him together. And I just, that was in the spring of 2017. And that just brought me to this place of like, okay, we're gonna have to deal with these hard places, or I'm not gonna make it to the other
Yeah.
side,
Yeah.
physically, spiritually, emotionally. So that has been just a huge part of my journey, um,
Mhm.
spiritually, getting in good counseling,
Yeah.
really working through. I feel like I just really had to confront the tearing down, like we said, of just all these bad theology that you don't even realize is bad
Right.
theology,
Yeah.
or just, wrong
Yeah.
thinking, kind of A plus B equals C, like, well, God, I followed your way, and, that means I should have XYZ.
Mhm. Mhm.
So mothering him, he's 12 now, he's in middle school, he's doing amazing. He's taller than me.
Wow.
Yeah, which I'm kind of a shorty, but still, like he's very very tall. But it has
Yeah.
been just seeing what God has done in him, in me, in my family. It's remarkable. It's
Yeah.
remarkable.
Well,
Yeah.
and I think the thing that keeps you going, because my kids are adults now, and I think one of the things that keeps you going is to know that he's not finished with them yet. And
Yeah.
our son had struggled with ADHD early on, and we even had like his preschool teacher at one point. I think he was 5 years old. Came out to me and was like, you might need to think about getting him on something. And I thought, what, but as a mom, I think we all kind of know when our kids are not quite, they're struggling with something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we don't
Yeah.
want to put words to context yet because we don't want to go there.
Mm.
We don't want our
Hmm.
faith to go there. We don't want our words to go there. And
Yeah.
so I say all that. We went through this struggle in a IEP file this thick, all the things.
Mm.
And, right now he's a mechanical engineer and he's thriving and he was the top of his class. Like he is so much of what the world wants us to think our kids are to be, or, we go to these IEP meetings and we do, I think as moms, we feel like we're failing our kids or
Right.
what can I do? Because we want to fix the problem.
Yes.
And when there's nothing that we can do to fix it, but just trust God, I think that's the rock when I can go back and say, but
Yeah.
only God can do
Yeah.
something like this.
Mayor,
Only.
as you were talking, I was thinking about the idea of, we're not a victim to motherhood. Like, I
Yeah.
think sometimes we feel like we're victims to motherhood when things go the way you're saying, like where you prayed for this son and or daughter, you prayed for a baby, a
Yeah.
child,
Yeah.
and then God delivers this thing, and it's almost like you feel like a victim to your own prayers or like your own
Yeah.
situation. So if somebody listening maybe feels like that, what is an encouragement you could give her to stay faith focused and to not feel like you are the victim, to remind them that, hey, this is where God has you?
Yes, that's such a good question. I would say specifically in motherhood, what I would say is that motherhood is hard. Okay, I have my son. I have two daughters who are neurotypical. They don't have special needs.
Mhm.
It is not easier with them. And in this season now with the two middle schoolers, I would say it's kind of harder with our daughter, honestly.
Yeah.
But I think that that's something we don't talk about, that, God's will, God's blessings are wonderful, but it doesn't mean that it's going to be easy or burden free. That
Mhm.
was a big thing. One of those false beliefs for me. I had this idea that if I was walking in the center of God's will, then there should be rainbows and butterflies. And,
Yeah.
Don't we
you know,
all wish that?
I mean, right. No,
yeah, I mean,
right.
that would
And that's
be
that's kind
great.
of that false theology you're talking about. Right.
Absolutely. Which I'm like, okay, how many times have I read my Bible? There ain't nobody in there walking with butterflies and rainbows. And they're right where God called them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or that this idea that a blessing doesn't have a burden that comes with it. And I don't think that's true. I think motherhood is such a blessing and it is a burden because we are raising the next generation. We have been called to, yes, love them and take their photo shoot and dress them up, but we have been called to teach them and
Right.
discipline them and raise them in the faith in this world that is absolutely going against every single bit
Yeah.
of God's way. So that is not easy. And I just think we get, at least me, like I was just in this Hallmark Disney mindset, and that does not serve us. That makes a hard road harder when we're fighting against the reality that it's going to be tough. Like motherhood is great. Marriage is great. Your walking out your career purpose is great. And it has this hard side to it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of I think it's one of those things where you can be mothering is one of the most rewarding and it's the most difficult.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine, and I say this to Mandy all the time, I'm going to say this to you too. I can't imagine being a parent today
Yeah.
that is in the school age because my daughter, she's 20, one of our daughters, she's 25. She's a middle school teacher. She teaches sixth
Oh,
grade
wow.
English in the public school system and the stories and the way people parent, like all of those things. And yet I can't imagine.
Mhm.
So it's kind of like you guys have to be built up. You got to be prayed up and you got to have a confidence to know where Christ is at in your life
Yeah.
and let
Mhm.
your kids see you walk out the hard stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Man, because I think we do as parents, we don't want our kids to see the ugliness of our marriages. They don't want us to see we don't want them to see the ugliness of us having a hard rock, if you will. Um, they
Yeah.
need to see that
They
because
do.
they're going to face those things and the world is just vying for their attention.
Yeah.
They want to grab a hold and tell them what to do. And I think those are the things that as encouragement to, as seasoned, it's like show everything, show the good and the ugly,
Mhm.
because they will learn from that on who their faith needs to be dependent on,
Mm.
Absolutely. It's
you
so true.
know.
Because you want to show them Jesus in the middle of that hard, and
Mhm.
have those conversations and have them young and have them often.
Yeah. Life has a way of making them happen often. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we don't really have to try. We don't have to work at that.
I know.
It comes
Oh,
up.
wait, here we are again. Oh, cool. Yep, I'm saying sorry again to you. Cool. Yep.
Right.
I didn't have to try for this.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, Meredith, I know you've got your book. We've talked a little bit about your book coming up and stuff, but is there a certain thing that's been on your heart, certain topic that's been really on your heart that God's just been tugging and saying, "Hey, I want you to put influence into words with
Mhm.
what he's put on your heart."
Yeah, I feel like, and Mandy, we've talked a lot about this. I feel like whatever it is, if it's, motherhood or marriage, my heart is so for the woman who is just in this hard season that feels like it's not going to end. We've
Mm.
talked about this idea of like long suffering and, I mean, all of us, if you got a hard thing that's going on, you can hang on for a while, but it's like when it just goes into months and then years and years upon years, I always get this mental picture, especially since we just went to Africa this year, of like the pack of wildebeests, and you've got like the couple in the back that are straggling, and they've been separated from the rest of the crowd, and they're so vulnerable. And to me, I was just like said so many times, like I feel like that wildebeest that is just parched and exhausted, and I can't go another step.
Mm.
So how do I keep going when I feel like I can't go another step? And that, like, my heart is so for that woman of just like, no, like, don't give up. This idea that God is still working and he's still writing our stories. So if you're in the middle of it, you're in a dark chapter, like, you cannot give up. You've got to keep going because he is going to bring you through. And again, it doesn't mean it's going to be rainbows and butterflies. It doesn't mean that it's going to look the way you wanted it to, but it does mean that he is faithful without a doubt. And he is true to his word and he will fulfill his promises. And the trick is to not give up before you see that. And that's what Satan wants us to do. He just wants to swoop in and no, it's been this long. God's not working. It's hopeless. Just give up, because I've been there. I have been there.
Yeah.
So
And
devotional will hopefully encourage that woman.
then, even like to complete your cycle, like then when they don't give up and they get there, that's when they can look back
Yes.
too at
Yeah.
that, and remember.
Yeah.
So,
And remember, yeah. I love that,
well,
Joshua, like you had mentioned, when they crossed the Jordan and God called, take 12 people, one from each tribe, and go and gather stones. God told them to go to the middle of the river and gather those stones, not from the side, not where it's easy, like from the middle, the deepest part, the most dangerous part, but also the part where, like in the middle, those stones are the smoothest. They have been just rushed over and run over with sand and grit and water. So they are so polished, but that's only in the very middle of it. I found that fascinating, So, and it's the same with us. It's the fruit that's going to come out of the darkest parts of our stories that is going to help people the most.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. Don't give up.
Yeah.
It's not,
Yeah.
it's not over until it's over. And God says when it's over, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, I am so grateful for you
I'm so
and your
grateful.
friendship, and I'll keep blowing you up if you'll let me. And one day we will actually hug each other in person.
I
But
know. Can
I
I
can't believe you
share
guys
a
have not met in
story?
person.
I know. Can I share? So I was not planning to
Yeah.
talk about this, but I just like, it makes me emotional. But so, um, we were paired as partners. You were pregnant with Luke.
I was.
Pregnant, yes. And so I remember when we were paired and, finding you on social media and, you're so beautiful anyway. And you have these beautiful photos and you're pregnant. And, at that time I was still really struggling, with Isaiah. And when we were paired, it's like Satan kind of came in and was planting these mean thoughts of like, look, look at Mandy. She has the beautiful life. She's having a beautiful son. She's, like the way
Mm.
that Satan comes and
Mhm.
it felt like, oh God, like that's cruel. Like that's hurtful. But I look at what God has done. Like you are just one of my favorite people. You are
Oh,
a precious friend. We are just able to connect, and I love you dearly and love your sweet children. And it was just so beautiful to me how like Satan was trying to steal something or just, be nasty. He comes out of those fiery arrows that he's just trying to take our deepest places of hurt and dig in. And God's like, no, no, no. Like I've got something so good for you. This
Wow.
friendship. So
oh, you're gonna make me cry.
Oh,
I've never told you that, but I just
imagine.
like,
Yeah.
Wow. I know. Like I would
Well, but I
cry.
mean, I mean, she's beautiful in person, let me just tell you.
Oh my gosh.
But
hard.
Meredith, I think the honor more is because we don't admit as women how we
Yeah.
can feel that way. We hold those feelings inside, and to be able to be upfront and say, this is how I felt.
Mm,
And you identify where those thoughts were coming from, but to
Mhm.
actually confess it, that's a big deal. And I know God will richly bless that because it is true. I mean, she's been a blessing, and it's been God ordained in our relationship because she lives like down the
20
next
minutes
20
away.
minutes away. And I'm like, how are we
Oh
not
my
doing this? So
goodness.
it's been
Yeah.
a God thing, but I definitely want to honor you too, because that's a big deal, what you just said.
Well,
Mm,
it's like we talked about, we don't get honest enough in our
Mhm.
life. We'll get honest to a point, but we hold so much that we're
yeah.
Yeah.
not willing to lay it all out. And, we really can only go so deep with each other or with God if we're not willing to really be honest about like, hey, this is what's in my heart. Like this is what I'm
Yeah.
Yeah.
doing, because God is able to come in and fix that. Like when we confess it, when we acknowledge it, he's able to come in and
Yeah.
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 Well, thank you for being my friend.
Having
That may
so
be
much.
that may be the whole message right there as to
Yeah.
why it took so long for us to get I mean,
Yeah.
the technology behind the scenes was absolutely, we knew it was the enemy, but now I can see, I think we both can say, all
Yeah,
three of us can say why we were here today. Because I mean, yeah, we need
absolutely.
to talk more about that, more about the truth of what we can feel towards other
Yeah.
people, and
Mhm.
how we're not in the right headspace to think like that, or heart space, if you will.
Yeah.
And we need to create more of an environment and more of a community of women that just says, I'm vulnerable and I'm honest because I'm not perfect. We
Yeah.
see perfect every day,
Every
and
day.
we need to be women that say, I'm not. And
Mhm.
I'm just here to say, I only God can do the things that I'm able to do, that I can
Mhm.
say and put words together, on paper, whatever that looks like, because I was
Absolutely.
vulnerable enough and able to just say, Lord, I surrender my thoughts and my
Yeah.
heart to you. So no, kudos to you, Meredith, for sure. And I'm sure your book is going to be a blessing. And we need to have more conversations like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to get
Love
on it.
you so much.
Love you. This was just an absolute joy. I'm so excited we were able to do that. Thank you for the honor of asking me to come
Yeah.
on.
So where can people watching find you? Where do you want them to go? Send us that information.
Um,
Tell us the information.
Instagram is probably the best place. This year, honestly, I've kind of fallen off the website, so
Same.
yeah,
Yeah.
radar. Yeah, I can't apparently write a book and post at the same time. But so yeah, Instagram, Meredith H. Carr is my handle, I think. I'm trying to even think. What
Okay.
is
And we'll put it down in the description, but yeah.
Yeah. And I do have a website, meredithhcar.com. Again, I haven't updated it in a while, but I do have a ton of great free downloads and free resources and, all kinds of past blog posts. And I've posted all my devotions through Proverbs. So there is a good well of encouragement
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
before the book comes out.
Can you share the release date?
I
Are you able
don't
to?
have that
Okay.
yet. I think the next steps once I submit the manuscript, then they'll choose, we'll get onto that. I'm assuming it's probably going to be next fall. It kind of seems like it's on like
Hmm.
you'd have a year to write it and then a year to get it out, but it will be sometime in 2026, Lord willing. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Great. Well, we'll make sure everybody knows when it comes out.
Yeah. Thanks, Meredith, for
Love
coming, for
you.
being with us
Love
today.
you. Thank you guys.